We know the Cardinals need starting pitching, but will they make a big addition for the bullpen too? Coming up on B-Shape Daily. What's going on, everyone, and welcome back into this edition of B-Shape Daily. Brenden Schaeffer here with you on Halloween, Tuesday, October 31st, 2023. Back in the saddle, getting a little St. Louis Cardinals conversation out there into the ether. World Series still going on. We've got Game 4 coming up tonight between the Rangers and D-backs. It's been a pretty good series so far. I'm hoping we get a long one. Hopefully it goes 7 games. That would be ideal for the most drama and the most chaos. But either way, we know the Cardinals aren't involved. There are some former Cardinals involved. Though I'm not sure with Adolis Garcia, his injury. He left that game on Monday with an injury. Looked like he tweaked his side or something. I don't know if it was oblique. I haven't read up on what that was. But nevertheless, you got Tommy Pham still involved. World Series will be over eventually, though, and we'll get to focus all of our attention on the offseason. And that's coming maybe sooner than you realize, too, because we're also not too far away from the Japan series ending, at which point we expect there to be a number of players posted for the international posting system that will be available to be signed as Major League Baseball free agents. Guys like Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Shota Imanaga, and a relief pitcher that the Cardinals are reportedly circling the wagons on, Yuki Matsui, a left-handed closer out of Japan as well. And so today on B-Shape Daily, we're going to talk a little bit about Yuki Matsui and what the fit could be for the St. Louis Cardinals, as the interest has been expressed according to reports over the last couple of weeks. And if you step back from it, it makes honestly perfect sense with where the Cardinals are at, because we know that they've got to add starting pitching. That's where a lot of the attention is focused on. But it seems like every time I post a video talking about starting pitching here on YouTube or on the B-Shape Daily podcast feed on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, people in the comments will say, hey, remember though, the Cardinals really need to fix the bullpen, too. We're spending all this time talking about starting pitching. What about the bullpen? Well, this is a what about the bullpen conversation, because Yuki Matsui is a 28-year-old left-handed reliever, just turned 28 years old yesterday. In fact, on Monday was his birthday. Born October 30th, 1995. Left-handed closer for the Rakuten Golden Eagles over in Nippon Professional Baseball. And I believe where all of this conversation about a week or so ago began to surface was from a Yahoo Japan report. I want to make sure I get the reporter's name cited correctly here, because this was kind of the first that I had really heard of Yuki Matsui potentially being available. It was from this Yahoo Japan report that came out, looks like last Thursday, the 26th. And the reporter's name, Natsuki Un of Yahoo Japan. And, of course, the article is in Japanese. If you use the translator, you can use that Google machine as I'm doing to try and figure out a little bit more information about this. But basically, that Matsui had informed the team on the 25th of his intention to exercise his overseas free agent rights. But the Golden Eagles are going to offer him a contract, which I'm reading. I believe this is a 4-year contract worth around $10 million total, I would assume. I don't think that's necessarily the average annual value. So $2.5 million per year or so over 4 years. So not 100% sure that he will ultimately follow through on that decision to come to North America and to pursue a Major League Baseball contract. But the deal on Matsui is that he has spent 10 years with the Golden Eagles and is therefore an international free agent and would not be subjected to the additional posting fees that the MLB team that signs him would have to pay for a guy like Yamamoto or Shota Imanaga, those pitchers. This guy would just be what you pay him. And that immediately piques my interest for the Cardinals, because we know they're always going to try and be the most cost efficient that they possibly can be with these decisions. They've had luck going into the Japanese pool of talent before to bring in guys like Miles Mikolas. And so there is at least a familiarity with what their expectations are and how stats are supposed to look over in that league versus how it often can translate. We know Drew Verhagen was also another guy they brought from overseas, Sungwon Oh. as well as Kwon Young Kim from Korean baseball. So the Cardinals have some familiarity and some level of comfort with signing international free agents and trying to beef up their team that way. I think Matsui is a really interesting case and a guy that just feels like a Cardinal. And I know in a lot of ways the Cardinals need to be doing some things differently. They can't always rely upon what they've done in the past because in some ways that hasn't always panned out. At least at the end of the day, it's gotten them to where they are right here, desperate for pitching help heading into this offseason. But I think when it comes to Matsui, the fit seems to be evident. All right, his numbers as a reliever are really, really strong. You look over the past couple of seasons in particular, you can go back 3 years, 21, 22, 23. Let's do that. So post-pandemic, whatever. I believe they continued to play baseball in 2020 as well in Japan. But for Rakuten, the last 3 years, ERAs of 0.63, 1.92, and 1.57 in a total of around 150 games. And 43, 51, 57 are the innings totals in those seasons. Strikeout per innings pitched, man, this is impressive. Back in 2021, 59 innings pitched, 59 strikeouts in only 43 innings pitched. The next year, 83 strikeouts in 51 innings. And this past season, 72 Ks in 57 innings. I believe he's the youngest to 200 career saves as well in Nippon Professional Baseball. He has 236 saves, 24, 32, and 39 over the past 3 seasons. Really developing into a lights-out closer, it seems, for the Golden Eagles. Wants the opportunity to go stateside to play and pursue a Major League Baseball contract. His current team is going to make every effort to keep him, but it seems like the big leagues are in the future for this player, and I think probably the cost is not going to be too exorbitant. If I'm getting that right, I'm reading this from MLB Trade Rumors that says the 4-year contract worth 1.6 billion yen, as Bill DeWitt's eyes bug out of his head until you go, oh, yen, okay, not dollars. Roughly 10.7 million in U.S. dollars to remain in the fold on a 4-year contract. That's what the Eagles, his current team in Japan, are going to offer him. But this says here, reading MLB Trade Rumors again, that Matsui has hired WME's Brian Maniti as his agent, which could be a hint that the Southpaw is more interested in seeing what Major League Baseball teams have to offer. So gets an agent that's familiar with Major League Baseball and could certainly be a possibility that he comes stateside. At least 9 Major League teams have already scouted Matsui. Padres, Red Sox, Cubs, and Yankees are listed here. But the article from Yahoo Japan listed the Cardinals specifically, and I want to be kind of careful because you're trusting the Google Translate. I obviously don't speak Japanese, so I don't know what the article said in its original language, but it looks like they spoke to a Cardinals official. It says a Cardinals official looked over a list of set-uppers, which I would believe would be like relievers, setup men, who will become free agents this offseason, and asserted there are B pitchers and C pitchers, but among the pitchers who can be entrusted with the 7th and 8th inning, he is in the A class, referring to Matsui. And that's why I say I want to be careful with. I'm reading that. That is from Yahoo Japan. I hit Google Translate from Japanese to English, and that's what I'm reading. I don't know if that's something that the reporter spoke to the Cardinals official, because that would be noteworthy if the Cardinals had a scout over there and that quote came from that individual. But like I said, I'm just kind of reading along with the rest of you guys on this one. And if you've seen more information, throw it in the YouTube comment section, because I think this Matsui is definitely an interesting candidate to join the Cardinals bullpen. Put on the thumbnail for the video here on YouTube. And if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@bschaeffer12. Brenden Schaeffer, St. Louis Cardinals writer, going to have a lot of Cardinals content this offseason. And then when we get into the next baseball season as well. So would love for you to hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. But I put the thumbnail and said future Cards closer, ? But I think the Cardinals would be probably looking to Matsui at a minimum to just be part of that back-end group. And I believe it was Katie Wu might have written a recent article that I saw some people talking about, reports about the Cardinals looking to add to the back end of their bullpen alongside guys like Giovanni Gallegos. We presume Ryan Helsley would be back. Jojo Romero is going to be in that mix. According to everything that Ollie Marmol said later on in this past season, he did a nice job for them. before I think he got banged up a little bit at the end. But the Cardinals are definitely going to be looking to add to the relief group. Now, what's interesting about Matsui, he is another left-hander, and I kind of feel like the Cardinals don't necessarily need another left-hander for their bullpen, but I could also see the benefit of it. Like Jojo Romero, one guy that would be slated as a back-end reliever from the left side. You'd like to have another guy that you definitely trust, but you do have John King that I think kind of slots into more of a middle relief left-hander. And don't forget about John King because he had nice numbers this past season after coming over in the trade at the deadline. It was kind of the forgotten piece in that Rangers deal. But John King did a nice job out of the Cardinals bullpen, and so he's another lefty. And then you've got to kind of figure out what you're going to do with your other lefties. Guys like Matthew Liberatore was being used a little bit as a reliever at the end of the year. Are the Cardinals going to perhaps abandon him as a starting pitcher and maybe go that route? That would be interesting and would have ramifications on the rest of the bullpen if they choose to do so. Zach Thompson clearly seems like he's going to be vying for an opportunity as a starter, but I feel like what needs to happen is the Cardinals to get a number of bona fide starting pitchers that will slot in ahead of Zach Thompson. So what will his role be? I think the Cardinals certainly need to have told him coming into this offseason, prepare to be a starter in spring training, because it's not something they told him to do last offseason. And then lo and behold, his whole year was kind of a roller coaster as a result of that, because he was trying to build up mid-year after kind of struggling a little bit with the St. Louis bullpen. He goes back down to Memphis, never really had a fair shake at ramping up the way you would be fair for a young player trying to make his rise into big league baseball. But Zach Thompson kind of took on all comers and did what he could. But I think this offseason, hopefully they're telling him, hey, be ready to start and have that be part of your offseason repertoire. But it's interesting to think about any of those, Liberatore, Zach Thompson, if they're part of the bullpen mix. You've also got an interesting situation with Andre Palante, who you kind of used as a left-handed reliever, even though really he's not. He's right-handed, but his repertoire, the way it lined up, although I saw Andre Palante, there was some video of him on social media earlier today working in one of the pitching labs and working on the death ball, I think they call it. They're the kind of the new hot curveball that Jordan Montgomery is popularizing for sure in the postseason here. Jeff Passan, I think, had the article on the death ball that Montgomery's curveball has become. But just kind of interesting to see what the Cardinals could do from the left side of their bullpen specifically. Trying to see if I have overlooked anybody else. I'm sure there are some other left-handed names that I should be mentioning, but have neglected to do so. But nevertheless, left-handed closer type, maybe a 7th, 8th inning guy to add to that mix. I don't really know who would go in as the closer. Probably you got Ryan Helsley. You've got probably not Gallegos, given that when he's gotten the opportunity in the 9th inning, it hasn't gone great. But you've got Jojo Romero that you would expect to see in that mix. And maybe you sign a Yuki Matsui, who also pitching from the left side. Reading up on him a little bit, not like an overwhelming fastball. 91 to 93 miles per hour is what I've read about Matsui. I obviously have not seen him pitch other than just highlight videos. But the other interesting aspect of this player, he is listed at 5'8" tall, 167 pounds on his baseball reference page. So certainly by the standard of a major league pitcher and what you think about when you think about the size of that individual, Yuki Matsui, a smaller guy. And it's kind of interesting. He's about my size almost exactly. I'll be curious to see if the Cardinals do sign him. I stand next to him if that description matches. He's probably maybe a half an inch taller than me or so. I'll claim like 5'7.5" on a good day. But interesting that he obviously gets the job done. You can't argue with the body of work from Matsui with 236 career saves in Nippon Professional Baseball and a lifetime 2.43 earned run average across all of his foreign league experience. So, which again, you might say, well, 2.43, you can probably add a run or two to that, translating to Major League Baseball. How is it going to come across when you're facing a different level of competition? But again, his numbers the past 3 seasons are really, really strong. Not a single year over the past 3 have been with an ERA higher than 1.92. He's gone 0.63, 1.92, and then his most recent season, 1.57, although his runs against average was 2.2 this year. Must have had some errors that contributed to some runs given up. But 91 to 93 miles per hour, so maybe not a hard thrower by today's standards, but the strikeout rate is hard to argue with as well. K per nine of 12.3, 14.5, and 11.3 over the past 3 seasons, which, again, is a question of how well that's going to translate. But to me, this is a no-brainer signing. And if you're in the Cardinals position, I think you'd be willing to go a little bit above and beyond market to make sure you get this guy, because even above and beyond market is not going to be the type of money that is debilitating if it doesn't go well. 4 years, $10.7 million is the current offer, evidently, that the Rakuten Golden Eagles, his current team, are planning to offer him to stay and to not pursue the major league contract. Seems like he's going to pursue the major league contract. And to me, this is what's a little bit hard to parse through the language barrier, because the official title of this article from Yahoo Japan says the Cardinals have made an official offer to Yuki Matsui, listed as Yuki Matsui on Baseball Reference. But I don't know if that's even possible yet. Like, I think they would have to wait to make him an offer, but maybe not. Maybe because he's not tied to the posting fee and he's an international free agent, somebody else out there is going to have read the right thing to know exactly what this is. And when I sat down to record this podcast, I didn't know the information. So if you know it, throw it in the YouTube comment section below and you'll actually be able to inform me on this. But the bottom line is it's going to happen soon that he'll be able to sign with a major league team. And the Cardinals, if they haven't made an official offer, they certainly are going to do so, is the way that I would be reading this as a Cardinals fan. And if 4 years, 10, 11 million is the offer that was on the table from his previous team, and if 4 years is what he wants, maybe you get him for 3 in an option or something like that. But 4 years, I don't know, throw out $4 million a season, 4 years, $20 million. It doesn't seem crazy to me to go for something like that, because at the end of the day, it's not going to impact you over any one season too significantly. Like $4 or $5 million to a pitcher. I don't know what the projection would be, what the expectation would be in terms of how far above and beyond the Cardinals or any other major league team would have to go in order to convince him to sign. But I just think really interesting, like, you could look at him and say, 5'8", 170 pounds. Like, is that really going to work? To me, that feels like exactly the kind of market the Cardinals could get into, because I don't think there's any reason to expect that the guy's size would become a problem. He's been a professional baseball pitcher for 10 years and has been absolutely nails over the past few seasons, dominating, has a high strikeout rate, seems to be checking off all the boxes. And whether he's left-handed, right-handed, like I was trying to say earlier, I don't think that part really makes any difference. It's nice to have plenty of left-handed options, but I think if the Cardinals could get this guy to go in alongside JoJo Romero, John King, and then whatever else they might be able to bring back, Packy Naughton if he comes back from injury, and some of the other guys that have dealt with injury, you could have a pretty good setup from the left side of the bullpen, and then you could just be aggressive in what you want to do from the right side to have a nice little balance going on. Ryan Helsey, Gallegos, if both those guys are back. We'll spend some time talking about like the upcoming non-tender deadline and whether any of the Cardinals arbitration eligible guys are non-tender candidates. That'll probably be maybe the next video we do, if I can make a note for myself to talk about that next. But that's kind of where it is in terms of the Cardinals' pursuit of pitching. We know that starting pitching is going to be a huge part of this, but how about the bullpen as well? What would you think, Cardinals fans, of the possibility that Yuki Matsui would be a target for the Cardinals? Reportedly, they're very interested in him. Depending on the reports that you read, they've already made an offer. I don't know the legality of that, so I wouldn't. Like I said, that might just be a translation thing, or maybe not. Let me know in the comments section below what you think here on YouTube, and make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you're up to date on B Shape Daily and all the Cardinals coverage that will bring you on the channel throughout this St. Louis Cardinals offseason. Again, I think one of the most efficient elements of the possibility of signing Matsui for the Cardinals would be that, yes, you do need to prioritize the bullpen. This would be a way to throw a little bit of money at the bullpen, but potentially be able to get more bang for your buck. Because a lot of times I have said throw quantity rather than quality at the bullpen problem and hope that you come up with a couple of diamonds in the rough that can end up doing a great job for you. That's something you got to really trust, though, in the scouting process and the development process, and kind of knowing who you can offer these kind of, minor league contracts with major league spring training invites to, and then those guys end up panning out and are part of postseason bullpens. We see it every year. Guys, Shelby Miller was a good example before he kind of got injured with the Dodgers. guys kind of come out of nowhere, but you got to have the pitching coaches and the staff in place to be able to get the most out of those players. But it is generally the way that I think it makes the most sense to pursue bullpen upgrades. However, when you're talking about the international market and the fact that you wouldn't have to pay a posting fee for Yuki Matsui, I feel like that is right up the Cardinals' alley to be able to say, oh, well, maybe this is an area that other teams are not as locked in on as we are, and we think we can get more from this player than the dollars and cents that we'd have to spend to sign him. Then that's where you can potentially find an edge. And the Cardinals this is right in their wheelhouse, right? When they signed Miles Mikolas, it was to a smaller contract. When they signed Sungwon Oh, Kwon Young Kim, and even Drew Verhagen, which is a deal that probably you say didn't really pan out to full expectations, but they're low-risk contracts, and I think there is the upside potentially to hit on a player that his game translates wonderfully. Maybe there's something in his delivery that causes him to be successful that guys just can't pick up on. We'll kind of have to read up more on Matsui if the Cardinals sign him, but just kind of looking at it from a surface level perspective, I think it would be a great move for the Cardinals to make because I just don't think it would be quite so costly. And again, I think that's better than saying, okay, who is the relief pitcher in Major League Baseball that's going to be a free agent that's at the top of his game and you can pay him $10 to $12 million a year and you can fix your bullpen that way. Well, I just don't think that's realistic because oftentimes you sign those deals and then those guys simply for whatever reason don't pan out. I mean, it's not unheard of that a relief pitcher in Major League Baseball would get injured. So the less that you are devoting financially toward those players oftentimes can be the better, but you do have to find the talent because the Cardinals, not only did they not have great talent starting pitching wise in their rotation healthy this past season, they didn't have enough in the bullpen either. And that was at various times of the year that you would say one might have been a bigger problem than the other. I think clearly after the Cardinals ended up trading away multiple starters at the deadline, that became the most glaring issue with the team. But there were still, they were just kind of throwing out a bunch of guys who have since been, DFA'd or outrighted or have requested their free agency. The 40-man roster has shed 6 or 7 guys over the past week or so, which none of the names should be surprising. Jacob Barnes, Casey Lawrence, Andrew Suarez. Like the Cardinals are getting rid of all those guys. Maybe they'll bring back some of them on minor league deals. Whatever the case might be, there's just going to have to be definitely a different situation for the way they approach their pitching in a potential pennant chase in 2024 versus they just literally had to fill some innings in August and September of 2023. And so those guys were brought in. What do you think, though, about the way the Cardinals could pursue pitching in not only in the rotation, but in the bullpen? Yuki Matsui should be a name, I think, at the top of their list. And based on some of the reports that we have read, it sounds like that is the case. That's going to do it, though, for this edition of the show. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me, for listening, and make sure to stay tuned because we'll have a lot more coming up now that baseball, the 2023 season, which has been over for the Cardinals for over a month and honestly more like 3 months, is about to be over for everybody else as well. And then we can kind of dig into off-season content full steam ahead with the rumors and reports and the whispers that we will hear as it pertains to the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are going to have to be one of the most active teams this offseason. And as a result of that, there will probably be a lot of those whispers that we hear about the Cardinals that we can dissect here on YouTube and on Be Safe Daily, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Make sure you guys subscribe today. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on Be Safe Daily. Peace.